my channel, The Fancy Hat Lady Reads. I am wearing one of my fancy booktube hats, and today I am filming a last-minute video before leaving town for the holidays. And I decided I wanted to repurpose some book recommendations that I've done over on TikTok over the last several years as a long-form YouTube video. So this is a few of my favorite animated films that I have seen in theaters over the last several years, and about 3 books that I recommend for fans of each. These videos that I did on TikTok have been really short form, no talking to the camera, no explanations, just like pictures of books with occasional like bits of text on the screen. Each one taking one movie and recommending about 3 books. The first one of these that I did back in 2021 was for Encanto, the Disney film. I didn't quite have the format figured out yet. I had like a bunch more books in there, but I've narrowed it down. But I'm not sure that anything else I can recommend for fans of this movie is going to top Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. This is YA. It is magical realism with a magical estate and a family with lots of sisters and a lot of magic flowers and like family secrets and history and stuff. This has very beautiful lyrical writing as well. Now, because these are animated films where the visuals and art style are very important, my mind often goes to graphic novels, many of which I don't have physical copies of to show you, even though I would want to show you the art style because I get a lot of the graphic novels I read from the library. The next book I want to recommend for fans of Encanto is a graphic novel. It is The Witch Boy by Molly Knox Ostertag. This is the first book in a series, a trilogy of which I've only read the first 2, but I'm specifically recommending the first book because of the story in this. This is YA. It's about a boy who is from a magical family, and the way he is called to use magic, the way his magic works, doesn't fit in with what the rest of the family expects of him. In his family, all of the boys are shapeshifters and the girls are witches, but he is a witch. And the story of this young protagonist struggling within the narrow expectations of this big magical family reminds me a bit of Mirabel's story in Encanto. And then the third recommendation I had was actually 2 books, but these are a series. They are also graphic novels. They are middle grade. These are Nightlights and Hicotea, both by Lorena Alvarez. Like the movie Encanto, these are set in Colombia and have magical realism influences. They're about an imaginative girl named Sandy and the magical shenanigans she gets into at school. When the magic stuff starts to happen in these books, the art is just sumptuous and colorful. And I actually particularly liked the second book a good deal more than the first. The first was just very short, and I think you could read the second book first if you wanted to. The next one of these I did wasn't until 2023, but it was for the anime film Suzume. I think that one's on Netflix right now if you want to watch it. This one was actually really hard for me to pin down specific elements of that movie that reminded me of certain books. The first book I picked was A Snake Falls to Earth by Darcie Little Badger. And the reasons that I picked this book were 1, that it's a contemporary YA fantasy, that 2, it involves both our real world and a magical, mythical otherworld. And 3, that it has themes of natural disasters. But because Suzume takes place in Japan, that centers around earthquakes and tsunamis, whereas the natural disaster in A Snake Falls to Earth is a hurricane because it takes place in a part of the United States that gets hurricanes. The next book I picked is an adult contemporary portal-ish fantasy, and that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. The other reasons I chose this was because it has specifically magic doors, and also because this has like a very mild romance, where the protagonist is the person who is like learning about the magic doors and the other world, and the love interest is the person who knows more about these secret things. And then the third book I picked for Suzume is another graphic novel, and that is Are You Listening by Tillie Walden. This is a book I read enough years ago that I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I know that specifically it is a road trip book. It's a surreal magic road trip book, and there is a cat. It's also the sort of story where, like, along the surreal magic road trip with the cat, there's going to be some heavy-hitting emotional content. I did not have a book to recommend where anyone turns into a chair. I feel like that is a major oversight on my part. If you have a book to recommend where someone turns into a chair, drop it in the comments. The next one of these videos I did was in 2023, and that was for both the Spider-Verse films. The one that I had just seen, that had just come out, was the second one, Across the Spider-Verse, but I decided I wanted to do my recommendations for both of the Spider-Verse movies together as a single entity. The first book I recommended for if you love the Spider-Verse movies is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This was pretty obvious to me. This is a book about cosmic threats to contemporary New York City. I still haven't read the sequel, shame on me. The next book I picked was Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi, which is the prequel to Pet. This one is YA. This is also something that feels very contemporary and urban, although not necessarily exactly our world. Like, maybe it's the near future, maybe it's the near future in an alternate magical version of our world. But the type of coming-of-age story this is about a young character who discovers that she has an incredible magical ability, and how she feels torn by these different parts of her life feels a little bit like what the Spider-Verse films are doing. And then for these movies, I absolutely needed to recommend something with the multiverse. And the best thing I could come up with was actually a novella that is available to read online as opposed to in book form, and that is And Then There Were N-1 by Sarah Pinsker. This is from Uncanny Magazine. You can read it on their website. This is about a character named Sarah, who's an alternate universe version of the author, who gets invited to like an interdimensional convention of all the Sarah Pinskers from all the universes, and has to solve a murder mystery. And then the last one of these that I just did for a movie I recently saw is For the Wild Robot, which came out this year. This is a DreamWorks movie based on a book I haven't actually read. It's based on a middle grade novel. I'm gonna have to read the book now. And for this one, for two of my three picks, I picked two unrelated books by one author, Becky Chambers. A Closed and Common Orbit spoils a bit of the end of The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet and features characters who appeared in that book but is otherwise a standalone. But I picked this book because it is about an artificial intelligence robot character on a big, long journey of self-discovery. And then the second Becky Chambers book I picked is maybe the more obvious one, which is A Psalm for the Wild Built. This is a novella. It's the first in a duology. I recommend both of them. But this has robots in it that live in the wild. It's also a journey of self-discovery for both of the main characters, the T-Monk Dex and the robot Mosscap. And then I had this insight, this revelation, because the inverse of robots in the wild is animals in the city, and that also happens in the movie. So my Animals in the City book recommendation is this one. This is Tales from the Inner City by Shaun. I got this out from the library to film the TikTok video, so I have it. This is heavily illustrated with full-page illustrations for mostly flash fiction. And the stories and the images are all very surreal and beautiful, and some of them are very poignant. And the theme for the whole book is animals in cities. So there you go, that's some recycled content from TikTok in case TikTok goes away. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you want more of this type of recommendation content here on YouTube. Anyhow, I hope you're having a very nice day. Happy end of the year. Bye for now.